Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Divinely Crowned Conversations podcast. I am your girl, Divina, and I am so happy that you decided to tune into this episode of the Divinely Crowned Conversations podcast. Before we get into tonight's interview, I always have to make sure I remind you guys to like this video, share this video, subscribe to Divinely Crowned Conversations on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts and on YouTube, and just join the queendom all over the place. Divinely Crowned's just been everywhere lately. So make sure you are tapped in because we're just going to keep growing. So tonight, I am excited to have another divine guest with me. And this divine guest is very near and dear to my heart. She happens to be my sister-in-law. She is married to my big sister and one of my best friends. So I'm excited to have her on tonight. So I am going to let her introduce herself. Miss Angelica, introduce yourself to the people for me.
Absolutely. So my name is Angelica Spraggins. That's my English name.
English.
My nickname is Angel. Most of you probably know me as Angel.
Yes.
My preferred name. I don't know what you want me to tell.
No, we'll get into it. So she's being very humble right now, obviously, but we're gonna get it into it and just learn about her journey. And I was so excited that I already introduced how I knew you, but I always like to share, obviously, how I know my divine guest. And like I said, she is my sister-in-law. We have grown tremendously over the years in our relationship. So this is definitely very special to me to have you on. You have so much wisdom and have been really helping me on my journey for quite some years now. And so I was like, yeah, we definitely got to get you on. She's like, when you gonna invite me on? I'm like, I got you. I was like, I know we all trying to still learn and heal and grow. So, but I'm excited for tonight. So without further ado, let's get into this conversation. Which, by the way, she just happened to tell me that I'm her first Black podcast. So, hey, I'm pretty excited about that. So, what better way to start her podcast journey of being on Black excellence than with me? Okay. So yes, so pretty much, Divinely Crowned Conversations all about talking about the journey of where we come from, where we're at now, and where we are going. So I always like to start at the beginning. So tell me, and I'm gonna call you Angel because I'm not being all professional. Like I almost even put that on the flyer, but I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give her what you call it? Your your credential name or whatever, but your English name. But yes, Angel. So where did young Angel start this journey she's on?
So you might have to cut me off in this story.
Okay,
listen. It's a long story, but it's a long story.
Listen, go off, sis.
So I was born and raised in Rochester, New York, which Rochester, New York is home of like women's movement. Frederick Douglass settled there after he escaped from slavery, all types of stuff. So they're very forward for the most part there. Born and raised there. My mother's from Georgia, a small town. My father's from Florida. So I got Southern raising in a northern city.
That's deep.
Yeah.
She like, yeah, that's like biracial right there.
Yeah, right? literally. So I got the home cooked fried chicken and collard greens and the discipline in a forward place. Right?
That's crazy, yeah.
I went to Catholic school for most of my life. My high school was an all-girls private school, tiny school. I think I had 50 people in my graduating class.
Wow.
Tiny.
Yeah.
I went to Edinburgh University. Took me 5 years to graduate because I partied 2 of those first years. Third year, I tried to figure it out. I moved back to Rochester.
Okay.
Worked for a year and I got an okay job, but I was like, this is not what I want to do. I don't feel fulfilled. So I went back to grad school because since high school, I had always wanted to be a therapist. I looked back in my yearbook a few months ago and literally it said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I put therapist.
I love it.
So I was like, let me go back to school for counseling. My father has been sober for 30 years of my life. I'm 35.
Okay.
And so I spent a lot of time in AA meetings with him. And so originally that's what I was going to school for, which was addictions counseling.
Okay.
I rolled into rehab counseling and I did really well in the program. After I almost flunked out of undergraduate, I wound up getting like a 3.9 in my graduate program.
Okay.
Got hired at the state here, which is how I
in
ended up.
Erie, PA.
Yeah.
So before, hold on,
Yeah,
because
okay,
we no, I was like, let me let you get a little bit feel and get loose, but we gonna have to really, because I already am ready to pick out so many things. But I'm like, we gotta go back to Rochester. But before we do, I did forget to say, make sure you guys are in the comments, because you know I always like to interact with you guys, and my guests do too. So we are going to start off with my lovely sister and Angel's wife. She said, hey, boo, Angelica. And then she said, sister Davina. Hello, Davana. We love you. So, yes. So we got to go back to Rochester, because she like gave you a highlight of the journey that we're getting ready to pick apart. I was like, it's okay, sis. So let's go back to Rochester. And you talked about graduating from an all-girls school, but was that where you were, like, even when you were younger? Like, let's go back to even like childhood.
Absolutely.
What was young Angel like during her younger adolescence years? If you can remember that far, I'm sure you can.
I can. I think I was a lot like I am now, but like I said, I had a Southern upbringing, so you didn't speak too much. Children were not they were to be seen, not heard. And so I had a lot of respect for my elders and adults. And so I thought like I think now,
okay,
but a lot of it I never shared.
Okay.
And I actually, the one story, I had a client the other day ask me, when did you come out or recognize that you were queer? And I didn't come out at this point, but I recognized I was queer. I was 5 years old, 5 or 6, and I was in kindergarten. And I remember asking this girl to be my girlfriend. And she was like, that's not supposed to happen. And she literally blackmailed me through kindergarten.
Wow.
So she was like, oh, you need to give me your juice or your cookie, or I'm going to tell the teacher you asked me to be your girlfriend, right?
Wow.
But it was at that point that I realized that there were some things that you keep to yourself. And so young Angel was inquisitive. I spent a lot of time alone, a lot of time either by myself reading, watching TV. By the time I was 8, that's when my parents divorced. So I had literally 2 houses, 2 rooms. And I think my parents at that time were so distracted with work and still battling each other, because it was a 20-year marriage that they were dismantling.
Yeah.
That I was kind of emotionally and like psychologically kind of left by myself a lot, which I think has a lot to do with how reflective I am now, because I sat with myself and I didn't have anyone to say, oh, what you were thinking is wrong.
Yeah.
Or you can't think that way. Nobody corrected me because they were busy doing what they were doing.
Wow.
And so on one end, it's like, dang, you left this 8-year-old to kind of figure it out. But on the other end, they left me to figure it out, and I figured it out. And so little Angel was definitely this Angel in a tiny body, just internally figuring out how the world works.
Yeah. And wow, that's deep. And I know we've talked about things, but like, even just to hear you kind of share, like, you know, at 5, I was pretty much blackmailed for, you know, coming out. And not, I don't know if you kind of knew what you were feeling or anything. Were you more aware, or was that the moment you were like, oh, this is wrong? Like,
yeah, that was that moment.
Yeah.
Because I didn't, my family did not talk about those things. It wasn't a negative nor a positive.
They just didn't talk about it.
And we had queer people in our family, and they didn't talk negatively about them. They were just another. So, and that's still how my family is now. My family does not have a negative, and I don't want to say they don't have a positive, but they don't. It's not a subject, right? Like, you are who you are, and this is you here. So.
Yeah. So how does that at 5 and 8? Because that was a lot a lot for a young child to go through. And I know you said, you were very to yourself, but what does that even do? Because I know how I was young. I was very outgoing, but I was very low self-esteem. So how did that affect your self-esteem going through these processes
Yeah.
or experiences, I should say?
And I can't I can't speak for other kids
Mm-hmm.
who were left alone like that,
Mm-hmm.
because I one of the questions I kept going over my head coming in this to this interview was like, what if she asks you why you are the way you are,
Mm.
right? And I was like, I don't have an answer for that, but I was thinking about it, and I was talking to Devonna earlier, and I was like, when I was in my mother's womb still, she tells me a story about one of my great aunts. She took the sonogram picture of me to her, and I was holding my head up, like literally like this. And she
Mm.
said, "Oh my God, like look at how she's holding her head up. Like she is going to be something powerful."
Oh,
And
yes.
I remember telling Devonna, my elders always spoke strength over me
Mm.
and spoke greatness over me.
Yeah.
So by the time I got here, I think spiritually and emotionally, I had already been nurtured enough to be okay and to
That's
figure my
good.
way out. I think that being alone did two things. Number one, I think it did harm me a bit in my adulthood because I'm
Mm.
okay being alone, and that
Mm-hmm.
can get frustrating when you want to have large groups of friends, right, in the society we live
Yeah.
in. But the other thing it did is it did not leave space for other people to be able to challenge how I feel and how I think, and me give up. Can I curse on here? And me give
Go
F
ahead.
about it.
Get
Me
it?
give F about it. I didn't
I
care.
literally said, hold on. I was like, you can cuss, but just try not to use the F word too much.
Yeah.
But go on.
But it left space for me to process my own things without
Oh,
others impeding opinion.
wow. And so, like, what I like, because I'm just trying to, you had kind of a unique space because I feel like growing up, and even though you said, like, growing up, you were like in a don't ask your child position, but at the same time it seemed like you had a lot of freedom to almost speak.
Mm-hmm.
So like in a black household, like how did, and I don't know, maybe this is like the same thing, but it's like I kind of want to go deeper into asking like how that kind of transformed. Even let's not even go as far as where you're at now or like an adult or in college, but like going into middle school and high school, like how did that kind of help you to know, like did you get in trouble a lot or
No,
anything like
no, I didn't. I did not get in trouble. So I'm the baby. My brother's 12 years older than me. And so
Oh
my mother
yes.
was 17 when she had my brother.
Okay.
She was almost 30. No,
Mm-hmm.
12, 20. Yeah, she was almost 30 when she had me.
Wow.
So her and my father were at significantly different places.
Mm-hmm.
So I think although they had that Southern upbringing, by the time I got here, they was like, we don't know what to do. Like
Wow.
we,
That's a whole different like generation almost, right?
exactly. My dad trying to figure cell phones out and internet. But I think when I got to middle school, number one, I didn't get in trouble a lot
Mm-hmm.
because I had older cousins, and I watched
You
them
watched
get their
that?
butts whooped by my grandmothers and my aunts and my uncles.
That was
And
Devon and I. We were the example for my younger siblings. Yeah.
yes, yes. And so I am a person where I will learn from someone else's experience very
Mm.
quickly.
Even at a young age.
Yeah, even at a
That
young
is
age.
not common.
And I couldn't tell you. I'm telling you, I thought of the question of why. How am I? And the only thing that I can think of is, like I said, I had a lot of things that were reinforced in
Mm-hmm.
me before I could even realize that they were beneficial to me.
Mm.
But no, I did not get in trouble a lot. I actually have had one spanking in my life, and my dad
Go
tells me
off,
this
sis.
story all the time. I ran across the street when I saw him coming across the street and almost got hit by a car. So he gave me a spanking,
Oh
which
my.
was backwards, black parenting.
Yeah.
I was like, sir, that's not a good.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
but other than that, I think I got one punishment when I was 15 or 16, and a few of my friends and I had gone to the movies and intentionally missed the one movie so we could stay
Mm.
for the later movie. And my stepmom put me on punishment, but I only was at my dad's house for the weekend. So I was
So
like,
you was
this
like,
is 2 day punishment. I'm about to go home.
I cannot. Listen, hold on. I have it in the comments. We got Mama Paisley. She said, hey, love you. Love you. So growing up, you said at the age of 8 is when your parents split.
Mm-hmm.
So take me through that experience, because now you're like, kind of your world is upside down.
Yeah.
So how was that as you're growing and trying to find your way and understand who Angel is, and you have all this time to, you are sitting and able to process things, but like how was that for you? Oh, she said, Vina, turn your mic down. See, I told you. I was like, I'm so loud. Thank you. Okay.
So my parents divorcing, I would put as one of the prime traumatic events in my life. I've done work with myself to kind of to process through it, but my dad was my best friend, right? Like my best friend, period. Like I used to go sit in AA meetings with him and drink my fake little coffee, and so I would rather just be with my dad at that point in my life. And I remember I came home from school. It was Halloween. My dad had got me this ninja outfit. It was a pink ninja outfit, and you had to search hard for a pink ninja outfit, right? So I'm like excited. I'm like about to go trick or treating, and I go up into my room, and I'm like, where's my bed? All my stuff in my room was gone. All the stuff in the guest room was gone. The only thing really that was left furniture wise was in my father's room.
Okay.
My father and my mother's room. And my mom comes in and she's like, "We leaving." Literally. And my mother, and when it happened, I was very upset at her. And I still remember night. I remember crying in the car, being like, "Leave me with him, leave me with my dad." And we drove up to a house that she had furnished that we was gonna live in.
Wow.
And my I think it was so traumatic for me because it was sudden. I didn't know. My parents did a really good job of not sharing those things with me.
Yeah.
But I also think that now that I'm an adult looking back at it, I have the utmost respect for what my mom had to do. And it may have been unfair to my father, and I can understand that. But being a Black woman and watching the things that I've watched other Black women go through, sometimes you gotta go.
Yeah.
And I think she did what was right for her. I think she did what was right for both of them. And I don't necessarily think that I would be the same person if they would have stayed together. I don't think it would have been a healthy space to be in.
Yeah. Now I want to ask, because you said that you think she did what was right for both of them, but like even then, did you feel like, or even now or whatever, like did you feel like she did what was right for you as a child? Because the reason, before you answer that, the reason why I asked that is because, like, a lot of us women, we stay, try to hold on for the kids, and this is what's best for the kids, and we got to keep our family together for the kids. And I'm guilty of being like that for some years with my children's father, but it was like I had to really like be like, okay, I did this for me because I needed to make sure I was good for my kids, but maybe this wasn't what it was good for the kids to leave. So what do you feel like at that age? Well, not that age, because you did say like I was mad. Yeah.
I thought that it was dumb.
And when was it that you kind of realized like this was the right decision for her?
Like 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
Yeah. My mother and I went through some difficult things, and I love my dad. When I tell you I could not have asked for a better father, a better person to support me. Like there was nothing that I ever did that my father ever missed. But I do recognize emotionally that my father, I think at a certain point tried to put a wedge between my mother and I, because he wanted to be loved. And, there are different ways to get love. And when sometimes men, especially, I will say men sometimes put blinders on when they want to be loved by a specific person in a specific way. And I think my dad did that. And so it took me until 30s and getting into therapy, getting further into being a therapist and being like, all right, you got to really understand what your mom was kind of going through.
Yeah.
And looking back, I recognize moments of how unhappy she was. And the reason why I preferred to be with my father, because my mom was depressed being married. And so, yeah, I wanted to be with my dad because he was uplifting and fun, and he would play football with me and baseball with me. And she didn't have the energy or the mental capacity because she was unhappy. So it took me until 30 to recognize. And I apologized to her. I apologized to my mother for multiple things when I was a child that I had a right to say when I was a child, because that's how I felt.
That's how you felt.
But she had to deal with making hard choices for both of us.
Wow. That's good to even like be able to come to that place, because I also feel like with Black families, that's sometimes hard to not to let go of the pain. Like, even though we didn't know, like our parents didn't know, some family members, they did know, or maybe they didn't know, or their mental health state was different. And sometimes it doesn't take us until we're older to go through things, work on ourselves. I think now with our generation, we are doing the work. And I think sometimes we're doing the work for our past generations. No, not sometimes. I know we are. You know, we talk about those generational curses being broken and different trauma, generational trauma, and for you to even be able to work on that. So that's important. And I actually want to ask you, like, what advice would you give somebody who maybe has been in a similar space of being angry with their mother or their father growing up and not knowing why they may have made decisions they did, and what would you say to somebody who is now maybe not even ready to do work like you did 4 years ago?
The first thing I would say is be your own adult and take space. Because I think sometimes when I was living with my mom or living with my dad, it's hard for me to take space back and not be frustrated with them. And so the first thing I would say is take space back and figure out who you are and how you function and where your emotional capacity is and where your ability to forgive is. And once you do that, take your parent off of whatever pedestal you put them on.
Wow.
Remove them from any type of perfection that you think exists, because they're human.
Yeah.
And before they were your parent, they were a human being. And I think when I was able to start viewing my mother and my father as being flawed, because I'm flawed, I walk around and I'm flawed, and I know they flawed, I was able to offer them grace for their flaws.
Dang, that's good.
And so good. I think that space and that ability to acknowledge their flaws allowed me to forgive them in the way that I needed to. And then ask them for their forgiveness, because they were, like I said, I was a spoiled brat. I wasn't a bad kid, but I know that there are things that I said that hurt my mom in those moments. And she was already going through something hard, and things that I've said to my dad that have hurt him.
Yeah.
And they were going through transitions in their life that I have not had to go through.
Yeah.
And I pray that I don't have to go through.
Yeah. Wow, that's good stuff. Let me look at the Mama Paisley. She said, "Go, Mom." And then she said, "You're so eloquent with your transparency about mom and pop. So graceful about your truth with your experiences growing up." And then we got Ms. Missy Watson. Hi, stepsister. Yes. She said, "Little sister, love you." So you grew up you had a biological brother and a stepsister. So tell me about that journey.
Yeah. So my brother and I, from what he will tell me, we had a great relationship.
She said from what he would tell me.
He always says it was before you could talk. So I was like, so when I was an infant,
when you were a newborn baby.
But we had so when he was 14-ish, he moved to Georgia.
Okay.
So I was 14, so I was about two.
Wow.
So
God bless your mama from starting all over.
I was apparently an accident. Yeah. Not a mistake, an accident.
Just an accident.
Depending on who you ask. But so most of our relationship was
real quick. I gotta show love. Devonna said, "Oh, I love you both. I gotta go, but I can't wait to watch the rest." I'm sure we'll still be here, and Devonna's getting ready to go help get the new moon meditation under control. Good luck. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I only did that because that's your wife, and so I had to respect the comment. If it was somebody else, they would have had to wait.
Don't just put that in
Right?
your sister.
I mean, I might not have did it. I'm just gonna be honest. I might not have did it too quick like that. But go ahead.
Oh man. So most of my brother and I's relationship was a vacation type of relationship. When I was in Georgia to visit, I hung out with him. Breaks like that. And as I got older, I think our relationship it wasn't great for me. Right. I don't know. I can't presume what it was that still causes a conflict between my brother and I. But what I will say is that my brother and my father had a tumultuous relationship, and my father and I did not.
Okay.
So I always used to joke with people and be like, I was the son that my dad did not necessarily get to raise. And my dad loves my brother to death. They have a really good relationship now, and I am so happy for that. But I think a lot of the issues between my brother and I had to do with what he assumed I was given. Right? I lived at some point in the suburbs and went to a private school. He went to an inner city school. My parents were very young when they raised him. They were moving. My father was in the military. So I think that he kind of viewed me as an entitled, spoiled brat. And I was a spoiled brat.
Not entitled, but she was a spoiled brat, right? She says.
Because I was like, my dad taught me to change the title. My dad, my mom, my dad. So I give him grace on that. But I always look at my brother as a protector, because I know my brother will come through blazing at any point if he needs to. Yeah. And it's kind of that situation where you'll beef with your sibling, but nobody else better.
Okay. And, you know, I know.
Yes. And so that is the relationship I had with him. And the relationship I kind of have now. It's an interesting one.
And I think and it does make sense. Like, you guys are officially 12 years apart. Okay. So that is a huge difference. And who wants to hang out obviously with your baby newborn sister or whatever, but at the same time it's like you might not ever catch up to where he is, or he might never be where you're at because of the distance. That's like, so if that makes sense. But like, I'm now thinking about it, like, wow, like you may never have the serious close relationships that I don't even know. Did you ever desire that? Or yes. Okay.
As I got older, I did. But I just
but
because I'm a person, I can accept what's
that's
and I am grateful to have a healthy brother who has two beautiful daughters in any point that I want. Like, one of the things I used to tell Divana about is that my brother, literally, we go to Georgia and visit. He'd be like, yeah, y'all watch Eden for the next 2 days. And literally leave my niece with us. And he's like, you need to spend time. My niece knew who I was when I walked through the door, and I had not seen her since she was born.
That's good.
She was excited. She was like, Auntie here. Like, and so the one thing I'll say about my brother is that he is explicitly about family. He's always taking care of my mother, always supporting my mother. My brother bought me my first car brand new off the lot when I was in college. So when I talk about, the emotional connection we have, that is different from the financial and supportive place that he's always been that in my life. And I think I don't need that from him anymore. And so I'm trying to form a different relationship, and it's difficult.
Yeah.
So,
do you think it would be maybe even just better to, and you can correct me or you can like reshape this, but do you think it's better to maybe focus on just a friendship with him? That's because I have a cousin. We have a cousin, Dawn Marie and Lisa, and they're, I think, like 20 years apart. So it's like, how do you like form that? But now you're having this different, you're trying to figure out this different way. And it's almost like you got to form a friendship and then see where it goes. But it seems like even if the relationship is stronger with your nieces, that's even just as important because it's an extension of your brother. So I love it. I love this conversation. So we have Pablo, my Poblano Pepper, I call him. He said, when you find your calling, it's not work, just joy. Having the opportunity to fulfill your purpose. You, my dear Davina Paisley, have found your calling. Erie is better with you in it. Thank you, Pablo. And Devonna said, period. That was what I said. I was interrupting the conversation. So you went to an all girls school.
Mhm.
I want to say that, and also you say you were 5 and decided to come out.
Mhm.
So how did that journey? Now you go from 5 to being an all girls school and figuring out life, I'm sure, even more. So tell me about that experience.
Yeah. So at 5, that instance pushed me way back in the closet before I ever got back in. So that was not something I was ever going to talk
Mm-hmm.
about. When I got to an all girls school, the one thing I now look back recognize is that women form the same type of relationships they form romantically without the intimacy.
I can agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I can
The
agree with
emotions, the possessiveness,
No.
wanting to do things together,
Yeah.
the gift giving.
Yeah.
Women are actually better in friendships doing that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in high school, it was a lot of that. So I didn't even get the chance necessarily to miss out on having boys or dating because my friends were like, when I tell you, like, so like I was a basketball player
Mm-hmm.
and we had a dance team and they were really good. They were nationally ranked.
Wow.
And we each had a dancer who would wear our jerseys at a game. Like cheerleaders, right? Wearing football jerseys. So there was one dancer, and pretty much through the entire time I was on varsity, because she was younger than me, like a year younger than me, would wear my jersey, I had my brother's dog tags at the time. And so honestly, being in an all-girls school, I think it did two things for me. Number one, it fulfilled that need for that connection, right? And it removed the stress of sometimes what dating and those types of things bring when you are still learning yourself. And I remember my school, even though mostly nuns, right? Private, small. I remember just being so free in high school. Like if you came to school, you had your period, we're all women.
Yeah.
So everybody got tampons somewhere, right? Like it was a school catered to women.
Yeah.
And my high school experience, like I was the high school jock. Like looking back, I'm like, my head was big, my body was skinny, it was weird. But I was captain of my basketball team on varsity 3 years. So I had a really, really good high school experience. And I remember my mom and my dad getting to an argument because they're still going through court at this point. Mind you, I'm significantly older than when they divorced. They stayed in court until I was 21 years old. Almost.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, back and forth.
Did they start court when you were 8? Gosh darn it!
So it was divorce proceedings, then it was like child support, and then it was like getting child support adjusted. And when I got into middle school, because I had gone to a suburban school, when I got into middle school and was going to Catholic school, my mom was like, because she worked in the city school. She was like, I do not want her to go to city school. I don't want her walking through metal detectors to get to class. And so she got me into Nazareth. And I think it was my 8th grade year. I remember going home. No, it was seventh grade. I remember going home for summer, and my mom going, "You can't go back because I am so backed up on the bills, and I can't pay them." And I remember her and my dad going back and forth. My dad's like, and my dad will tell you right now, like, yeah, I made a mistake there. But him being like, send her to a public school. Send her to the public school that she needs to go to, which at the time was one of the worst public schools in middle school. And it wasn't he was saying, send me to the worst public school, but he was saying, I ain't got this money to pay for this. And my mom was on the other end of the spectrum, which is I will sacrifice anything for my child to have a good education, because that was something that she had missed out for herself. So I got to the 7th grade and going home summer, my mom was like, you can't go back. And one of the nuns, Sister Damien, was my religion teacher. And I love that woman. Shout out to Sister Damien if you ever listen to this one day. She was it. People hated her, but she was it. Listen, it be like that. It's always the ones that people hate. Be like, no, she really cool. She like me. So we had started the process to get me to the public school, and I'm going through a horrible experience. I'm leaving my friends, and Sister D called my house, and I remember my mom just crying on the phone, and I was like, "What's going on?" She was like, "You're going back to Nazareth. Not only are you going back to Nazareth, not only did they pay your back bill, but they found a grant so you can finish 8th grade."
Oh my gosh!
So I had spent my 6th grade to 12th grade year in the same exact building with the same teachers and the same principals. So the amount of confidence I got from that school, it was like, I can do anything.
Wow.
So I loved it, to answer that question.
No, and that's good. That, like I said, coming from somebody who was so insecure in myself, and you're saying at that young age, you found your confidence because of, and I don't whoever's listening, don't take this the wrong way, because I had love, but it's like the love that you were receiving made you feel like you can do anything. And as a 7th grader, you weren't really a little girl, but like you're an adolescent, like how did that kind of even help you as you're growing into the woman you've become, even this far? Not just saying from school, but like your mom, you saw your mom, even though you felt some type of way about your mom, but you knew that she was going to do anything, to try to provide a better life for you. So like, how did that like help with you growing in your confidence?
Yeah. Well, the one thing that I did always recognize in my mom is she was going to get it done. And when you are in a home and there's one parent there, and my dad lived down the street, so my dad was, when I say in my life every single day, I always had access to my father. But when you are in a home and you watch your mother cry because she can't pay a bill, and there's nothing you can do about it, but in the back of your head, you know it's going to get done somehow. I think that it gives you a different amount of resilience because she did it with, at the time, very little education. But my mother got to Rochester when she was about 20 years old, because between when she had my brother and when they moved to Rochester, they had lived in Maryland. My father had lived in Korea.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So she got there at 20 years old. And at 20 years old, coming from a tiny little town with a high school education, at some point she wound up working for the first Black mayor of Rochester.
Oh, wow.
She worked in the city school district. So the things that I saw my mother do, it never dawned in my head that I could not be capable of them, because I didn't have nearly any of the barriers that she had, and nearly any of the barriers my father had.
Yeah.
So I think seeing that at a young age, it just was like, yeah, you can do anything. Period.
That's what's up. I love that. So you were a basketball, you talk about this all the time. Period. Like, my kids are in basketball. My dad, shout out to him, he just accepted a head coach position. Yes, so you now married into a basketball family, but you were a basketball star. So tell me, and I have to highlight it because that's near and dear to my heart. So, and you talk about it, like I said, you be always talking about it, right? So tell me how that was. Was that the only kind of activity that you were focused on, like growing up, like in high school? And did you play in college?
No.
Oh, okay.
So I played in band. I was a drummer.
Oh, okay.
I loved the snare drum, the bass drum. I did the cymbals a little bit, but I was like, trash. It hurt my ears. But so I played in band up until freshman year in high school.
Okay.
And I really started being kind of dedicated to basketball. I was the captain of my team. So I would honestly say I was like the third best basketball player, my third or fourth. I wasn't the best. I wasn't the best basketball player. And the reason I'll say this is because we had a really good team.
Okay.
Like a really, really good team. But I think I had leadership skills. And so, my job was to try to be as consistent as I could be, try to motivate my teammates. I was telling one of my coworkers today, basketball was my absolute first love.
Oh, wow.
And I think people don't engage enough with kids about things that we lose at early ages. I remember my mom telling me a story of my brother playing basketball in the backyard, and I was like 2 or 3 at the time, and me going out and grabbing the basketball and flipping over. And when I flipped over, I flipped head first, and I was still holding the ball. And she was like, "Oh yeah, she gonna play basketball." as I got older, I played basketball in my backyard. I would play basketball down the street. I would go to the parks. I rarely played against women. I always played against men until I got into organized sports.
Yeah.
So when I got to high school, we had a great team. We went to the state finals, made
I
it to
know
the
that's
final
right.
game. Like we had 3 Section 5 championships in the time that
Wow.
I was 3 out of 4 years. We got Section 5 titles. Our coach was an amazing coach. He moved to a different Catholic school because my school wound up closing down. But I think basketball, I tell Divine this all the time. She hates it because she's like, organized sports don't do all that. And I'm like, no, it taught me. Like,
I was just gonna ask about the experience. I know that's because she wasn't a sports girl. We accepted finally because our dad tried to get us all to play ball, or sports. Yeah. She got a little trauma around it. It's okay, sis. We understand.
I think she's accepted it more.
Yes, more. Yes, yes.
But it really taught me, number one, teamwork and leadership. I think it taught me that you got to trust other people to get things done. So even I was looking at when I sent you the credentials for what I do, a lot of my stuff is because I know what I'm capable of individually, but I really do take pride in hearing and engulfing other people's perspective. 2 heads are better than one, right? That saying. And I believe that. I believe like you got 2 parents, they're going to have 2 different dynamics that come together to raise you. And I am very much so both my parents, right? But then I also got my great uncles and my great aunts and my cousins and all of those different people made me great. Right? And so it was the same thing with basketball. I love teamwork. I love getting a project together.
That's good.
And it taught me persistence. You can't quit in the middle of the season just because you're losing. You got to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
And you gotta put on that face so the people around you have the confidence to do
it too. That's good, because I think in a world right now, it's a lot of me, you know, a lot of people look at me, look what I'm doing, and not a lot of teamwork. And even when, you know, that saying, collaboration over competition is very cliche, and I don't always feel like it's necessarily happening. But for you to say, like, you kind of almost thrive off of teamwork, and it kind of gives you more confidence to see, like, I know what I bring, I know what value I bring to something, and I know this person has this value, and starting from a team, like a basketball team. So like, I kind of want to touch on that. And I have so many other questions that is in my, I know, but I want to let's highlight a little bit as we're talking about teams, and you are co-founder and co-owner of two very big businesses or organizations in Erie, PA. So I'll let you talk about them. You know, I'll let you share. What are you, are co-founder, what are you of?
Co-founder of Erie's Black Wall Street.
Woo, woo!
Yes, I got a t-shirt on under this.
Yes.
And co-owner of Journey to a Trauma-Informed Life, mental health therapeutic space.
Yes. Yeah. She can still get used to, you know, being the co-owner. So tell me how, I guess, so I had Kyra Taylor on here, another co-founder, your beautiful wife, and my sister is another co-founder. And we don't even have to get really in depth with Erie's Black Wall Street, but I want to hear from your part of the journey. Like, how was it to be a co-founder of now what is a big organization for the Black community?
I can't speak to what they thought, but I had no idea that it was going to be. I was like, I just want to throw some parties, and I want Black people to be proud of themselves in Erie.
So, you know, when the party part is like the gala stuff, that was the vibe that Angel was bringing out. Okay.
That's the joke we got in the board meetings. I was like, all right, this is all cool. Where the parties?
Sounds about right.
But, it's been a fun-filled journey of learning for me, and I feel like nothing is more impactful than to learn something, right? And we've learned everything from how 501c's come to be, to how we're supposed to appropriately run a board, to how we manage funds, to how we hold one another accountable. And I think all of those things are things that I had not learned or I had not experienced. And we had to create our own in order to get into spaces to do that. And now every single one of us is being asked to be on somebody's board or being asked to be a part of something. But for me, I'm very grateful for the journey. And what I will say is that it's never perfect, right? Nothing you do is going to be perfect. It's never going to be happy all the time. Number one, I'm definitely grateful to be doing this with my wife. And I feel like nothing tests your relationship more than doing a project or an organization or a business together.
I can imagine. Because I know how it is to run one business from my dang self, let alone bringing another person in the same household, running and creating something like that together. Like, and I'm sure you guys, I know you guys have different opinions on things. So I don't see. We will get into the married life because that's a topic I like to talk about.
No, it's been good, and I'm happy that we got an executive director that is, first off, our executive director, our board, everybody involved reflects our mission, and that is the goal. And I'm very proud of that, and we're still growing and we're still learning. So.
Real quick, I have Chris Norris said I was legit intimidated the first time I met Angel and Devonna for filming Power Couple.
Oh, thank you, Chris.
So, Chris, you definitely just let me in because I want to talk about journey, but I definitely want to talk about other parts of getting towards journey. But I want to talk about this powerful because I want to go back to when you were talking about being in the womb and your grandmother saw
my great aunt.
Your great aunt saw like, wow, she has her, head up and she's this powerful woman. And I know personally that you're always talking about the strength of Black women and just always you talk about that so much. Like I love being a Black woman even more than I already do every time I talk to my sis. But like, just tell me, like, it's almost like you believe you are a chosen vessel. So tell me what it's like being this strong, powerful, or like, how did you kind of start to embrace being this strong, Black, powerful woman?
So I don't know. I can't tell you a point where I was just like, honestly, it was recently, I would say that I'm like, oh, you strong. No, I think acknowledging that you're strong and being strong though are two different things. And I think when I left home, I was around 18 years old. I had officially come out to my mother, and my mom was never upset. But I remember her like, you ever see old Black women and they be like, oh my heart, like, and she kind of did that, and she and I knew in her head, her Southern mind, she felt like she had done something wrong. And so after that, I was like, I'm gonna go to college and I'm not coming back, and I did. And at that point, I think is when it really started of you need to be strong. If you're going to make this strong of a choice, right? Or have this strong of opinion on something, you got to stand by it. And I think it was really that moment where it's not that I didn't feel like I had my mom, but I realized that there are people who will not align with the things that I believe or that I feel. And if that is the case, are you willing to stand alone and do that? And I had to do that at 18. So I think at 18 is when I figured out you can do this. You can figure it out for yourself.
Yeah, that's good. So I want to know, I'm always liking to get advice from people. So like, what would you tell not just young Black girls, but young Black women, young women, about that? Like, what advice would you give them about kind of walking in their power, embracing their power?
Yeah. What I would tell Black women is I think what we're all looking for is love, community, respect, right? Respect is love to me. And in order for someone to respect who you are, you have to be clear on who you are. And so I would tell Black women, don't be afraid to figure out who you are and walk in your truth. My mom told me a few months ago, she was like, I guess somebody in our family was like, well, how do you feel about Angel being gay? And my mom was like, my child has walked in her truth since she came to this earth. She's been honest. She's been forthright. So I'm proud of her. And for me, that is what I would wish for every Black woman is no matter what your truth is, live it.
Live it.
Because if somebody love you and you're not telling your truth, they don't love you. They love whatever you telling them that you are.
Ooh, and that's crazy. You say that because even today, I was talking to a mutual friend of ours and just talking about that unconditional love versus that conditional love, and it's almost like if walking your truth, and if those people that it's like conditional, then they don't deserve to be in your life. But unconditional love, like I believe, and we've been through experiences where it's like, yeah, we may not agree. Yeah, we may have time apart, but like you said, like if somebody were to mess with my sisters, me and them might not be, but and I believe that's unconditional love and being able to say like, I see you for who you are and I love you unconditionally, even if we don't always agree. And that's important for women, Black women. I like to speak to my Black women because there's a Black woman on this podcast, but like, I do believe that we deserve to be able to walk in our truth, no matter what that is, no matter who doesn't agree with us, and we deserve to be loved for that. So I appreciate you sharing that.
And the one thing I would say is we really got to come to the understanding. I tell Divana all the time. I was like, sweetheart, you can make a choice, but you got to understand your choice may not be love. And if you choose to walk in your truth, not just hurt anyone, you may not be loved for it. Right. And I think that's the thing that Black women have to come to terms with. Because we want to walk in our truth and we want to be loved for it.
Yeah.
But sometimes the people in our space do not acknowledge our truth and they won't love us for it.
Dang. So I'm going to speak to the therapist in you. And I have Camille that said, period. No, I got to say, period. Okay. That's how I know she said that.
Yes.
So I need a little bit of therapist advice on, right? You got the mint green on, but and I'm saying this like not just, I mean, maybe for myself a little bit, like hold on, let me go back to how you said what you just said. You said that, you got to be okay with not being loved for your truth. Okay. So how does somebody deal with that?
I think the first thing is, again, that step back, right? That's spending that time alone, being okay with yourself. I think it really does come from a place of self-confidence and self-love, and knowing that whatever choices you're making it for yourself to live a healthier, happier life. And I think it's difficult because I believe in community. I believe in collectivism and not individuality. But the one thing about collectivism is that it takes a bunch of individuals to form a collective. And I think sometimes we get collectivism confused with conforming to what everybody else wants. And then we're not getting, it goes back to that saying, two minds are better than one. We're not getting two minds. We're getting one.
Dang, that's good, Angel. That's good.
And so we have to, as Black women, really figure out what love feels like to us and give it to ourselves fully and be okay when other people don't. And unfortunately, I can't tell people how to do that.
Yeah.
But I've had conversations in the past where I'm okay if people don't want to be in my life. Am I going to cry about it? Probably. Am I going to be hurt?
Yeah.
Probably. But I know that it's not going to kill me.
Yeah.
I know that I will still be breathing.
Yeah.
And I can still move forward and do whatever I need to do in my life. So keeping that in our minds of, is this going to kill you? Or is it going to be something that's going to be painful, that your flesh is going to be in pain for a little bit, and you come out on the other side.
Yeah.
And you have another chance to figure out what it means to you.
Yeah, that's good. And you said, well, I can't tell you, but you kind of gave some good advice there. So that's listen, and Angel and I Angel's been she's been on a journey with me and all the things. Like, I get free therapy advice all the time, but I get it real raw even more than I already do from my therapist. So talking about it, and I do kind of want to go to college real quick, and then we'll go to therapy. And that, yes. So I want to go to and we ain't got to get all into it, but I know you said that you didn't finish school on time because you're in the partying and all these things. So tell me about, I mean, you don't got to get in depth, but like maybe that journey, because nowadays there's a lot of entrepreneurial mindsets and no one wants to go to college. And I ain't finished college and I'm 50-50 on the college thing, but I guess tell me how that journey was and maybe even give me some advice for, or give the people the that we're getting ready to have another graduation class of 2023 in high school. So share your experience and your opinion with college life.
Yeah.
She's like, girl, you sure you want
to some of this. So for me, college was never an option. And the reason it was never an option, it was something that was next. Because when my mother got pregnant with my brother, she was on her way to college. She wanted to go to college. She wanted to be a teacher. And I'm sure she won't mind me sharing this story, but she was... she had two options, and she was going to either have an abortion or she was going to have this child. And she told me a story about getting on a bus because she lived in this tiny town going to Atlanta with the intentions to do that. But a high school friend got on the bus with her and basically supported her and listened to her. And she got right on the bus and turned back around and she had my brother. But as I was growing up, my mother, she didn't care what I did. She was like, education is your number one obligation. You can't play basketball unless your grades are good. You can't do this unless you're, and she never had to tell me over and over again. I just knew, right? So I wound up going to Edinburgh because I am in the middle of 19 first cousins on my mom's side.
Wow.
Yeah.
19 first cousins. Okay.
Yeah, 19 first cousins. And that's my mom. That's
I was going to, how many siblings did your mom have?
7.
Oh, wow.
She is, her and her twin sister are the oldest of 8.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm right in the middle. And so none of my other cousins had gone away to college except for my cousin who's literally 1 year older than me, Tommy. And he grew up in Georgia, Warner Robins, where my mom was from. And he went to Edinburgh on a wheelchair basketball scholarship.
Wow.
A full ride.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I had gone to visit him the summer after I graduated, no, the summer before I graduated high school, just to visit, see what it was like. And I loved it. The campus was just like in the middle of nowhere. And then it was like the crux of the whole community. And then there were things on the outside. So I was like, I can do this. I can walk around in these 7 buildings and get to class and feel safe. So I got to Edinburgh that first year. Bruh, I discovered fraternity parties. I discovered old German, which is the nastiest beer you can drink in life. I was turned, and I was still not necessarily officially out, right? So that Christmas break, right before Christmas break hit, my grandmother passed away, and she was my only grandparent who I had grown up with. So that was very, very difficult. She had a pretty long battle with cancer, and she passed away. So we went to Georgia, did the whole thing, came back, and that middle part is where I came out to my mom, left for college, and that was it.
Oh, wow.
So my first year, I was drinking excessively because I was in so much pain, so much. Excuse me if I cried.
It's okay. I know. Listen, and I got some napkins. Oh, let me get them real quick. Let me get them real quick.
24/7, like
I
for
do
any
too,
reason.
so it's okay.
I cried commercials. Like, thank you, man.
You're welcome.
I ain't there yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, listen, just to get, I need to start putting a tissue box at the end for my guests. Cause listen here, ain't nothing wrong with some tears, okay?
Yeah. So, I was in a tremendous amount of pain. I was drinking a lot. I think at the end of my freshman year, I had like a 1.4 GPA.
Wow.
Like I basically was flunking out at that point. My second year, I had come out, and so I thought I was the SHIT. I'm partying, like I'm out, I'm proud, living my life. And then my third year, I was like, when am I going to graduate? And I go to my advisor, and my advisor's like, not now, not next year. You're gonna graduate.
You may not ever, but so we're gonna try to get you there.
This GPA you cannot graduate.
Wow.
So I was like, all right, let me try a little harder my third year. My fourth year, I realized I had not been taking enough classes because I had a trash advisor. And then I started, I forgot who I had gone to, but they were like, you need to take more classes and you need to focus. So my fifth and final year, I really buckled down. And this is how bad my grades were. I buckled down and still only graduated with a 2.4.
Wow.
That's how horrible I had been doing.
Wow.
So my college experience, I tell everybody, I had the best time in college if it comes to socializing, learning how to be an adult, learning how to deal with people, learning how to be kind of in relationships, learning how to date. I dated a lot in college, right? But I would say, when I came out the other end financially, it was, y'all didn't give me anything to be able to take care of any of this. So you gave an 18-year-old $100,000. But you wouldn't give me that if I started a business or if I wanted to buy a house at 18. So
that's deep, ain't it?
Yeah. And I was in such a hole. It was either go get more education to get a better job or never pay these student loans off and not be able to live.
Real quick, Camille said them advisors be setting you up to be in school for 10 years. Trash.
Yeah.
LOL.
Like, you advising the school. You're not advising me. Like,
wow. So would you recommend college?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I will say I do not recommend college for the intellectual value of it. I recommend college for the life experience that is a buffer.
Dang, I ain't never heard no one say that.
I will say that. And the reason I will say that is because I created lifelong friendships. I learned to take responsibility for the consequences of my action because I didn't study. I didn't do my homework. So the advisor might have not given me the right classes to take or the right amount, but I also wasn't showing up to class and I wasn't doing my work and I wasn't asking for help and I wasn't being vocal that I needed it. So I got to do it in a safe space that wasn't my job, that would be my livelihood, or wasn't when I had started a family that would lead to a divorce, right? Or whatever it was. So I do actually say that kids should go to college, but the one thing I would say is take from it what you want to get. Be intentional. Don't go into college, I'm gonna come out and be a genius, because if you wasn't a genius going in, you ain't gonna be a genius coming out. So
yeah. But that's really good advice, and that makes that's a different way of looking at it for sure. So thank you for that insight. So talking about going to college, you went to be a therapist.
My undergraduate was in psychology.
Okay. So I want to kind of go back to when you told me, because I want to talk about that journey of becoming a therapist, and going back to when you said you used to sit in your dad's AA meetings with you at how old?
He started going to AA meetings, I would say 5 or 6. I was probably
wow.
AA meetings.
And then when you wrote in your yearbook,
my
senior year. So tell me about that journey, because I'm all about, and my listeners know, everybody who probably follows Divinely Crown'd knows I'm very big into mental health awareness, therapy. I'm very vocal about saying, hey, I've been in therapy for 5 or 6 years now. So tell me about that journey becoming a Black female queer therapist.
Man, I had to burp a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think all those years sitting in those AA meetings, it did a couple things for me. I think the very first thing it did was it taught me not to judge people. It taught me that people are out here living hard ass lives, and we have to respect other people. And sometimes you listen to somebody's story and they're trying to change and they're trying to work on themselves. But there are aspects of life that are beyond just do something different. And so I think it definitely taught me that. It put me in the spaces of people who were CEOs of companies and couldn't manage to not drink every single night of their life, right?
Yeah.
So it also, the second thing was that it did show me that titles don't matter to what a person is emotionally and psychologically going through.
Dang.
It impacts everybody. It shows up differently sometimes. My journey to becoming a therapist was definitely in order to fix the people around me. And it wasn't until I got to my master's degree that I realized that that is not my job, and that is not what a therapist does. But
wow.
Yeah, it took me a long time. And my intention was solely going through a psychology program was solely to fix the people around me.
Wow.
And it did not work out that way, but I'm grateful for that.
So how was that? How was that? That was a struggle.
It was
to accept that.
Yes, it was. It was a struggle, but it was a relief.
Oh, that's
right.
I get that.
I think it was me exhibiting control that I did not have. I didn't have it when my parents divorced. I didn't have it when I couldn't pay for school. When I was a kid, when my mom couldn't pay for school. And it was me trying to have control over something that was not in my control by any means. So I think it was my first year in counseling, and we were talking about therapeutic relationship. And I recognized, I'm like, wait, so we're not supposed to tell people that they crazy?
I say that without a degree. You say no, but
and they're like, no, you gotta walk alongside the client in their journey. And I'm like, hold up.
I did not sign up for
it. I'm paying you to tell me this wrong. Like, I don't. So I figured it out though, and it just automatically like fell over into like my real life. And I was like, okay, so if I'm not supposed to be trying to fix clients, I shouldn't be fixing people in my personal life. Right? And it literally wasn't until I started practicing. So that was about 2.5 years ago.
Wow. I don't think I realized you're still kind of fresh the game.
So I've been a counselor since 2015. I have been an individual LPC for 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then I've been practicing because I was practicing before my license under supervision for about a year. So I guess it's closer to 3 years.
Okay.
But I got into practicing, and I would listen to my clients talk to me, and my instinct would be, child, why are you doing that? And I knew I couldn't say that, right? I had to.
I'm sorry, because this is literally how she talks when we're like at a dinner table or brunch and we talk about, that's how she be. Real quick, we have Adele. She said, Angelica makes my soul sing. Love her vibe. Thank you, Adele.
So I learned I couldn't say that. But it really carried over into my real life. It carried over into my marriage, where it was like, you cannot be correcting your wife in the things. She's moving through her own life.
Wow.
You need to let her be great.
Yeah.
And if she asks for your help, then you give it. You can't be telling your dad or your brother they need to do this and you need to do that. They're adults, right? The only thing you can do is express what you need and your boundaries, and then people can meet you there, or they can choose not to. And that's just where it is, right? So my journey to becoming a therapist really has taught me, number one, to relinquish control.
Wow.
You cannot sit in a session with a person who is asking for your help and control it. Because when they leave that room, they don't have you. They don't have you to fix whatever situation you just controlled and told them to go out and do.
Yeah.
And so if I tell you to break up with your abusive boyfriend and he hurts you, that's on me.
Yeah.
And so all I can do is pose questions and pose scenarios that make you reflect on how you're moving through life and decide if the change is for you.
Wow. That's some good stuff. Even being like, I mean, I'm not a therapist, but I'm a life coach, and even that advice from being a life coach is a good thing to. In life coaching, you're not allowed to at all. Like, you can't diagnose, you can't. But just knowing, like, listen, I can guide you and like kind of give advice, but I can't force you to do this is on you. And I'm hoping with sitting with me in these sessions, it gives you a different perspective and a different way to look at things. So now Devana's back. She said, I came in the right time. And it's funny because I was really waiting for you to come back before we talk about marriage and relationship, because I hope you cry whenever she talks about you, because I know she will. I'm playing. I'm playing, but welcome back, Devana. So, but oh shoot, okay. So talking about your therapist, you're now with Journey to Trauma Informed Life. Okay, so tell me about Journey and being the official as of when this year, January 1st. Let's clap. Yes. So tell me about Journey. I can't. There's like little clappings and stuff on here. I don't got time to do all that. I'm gonna just clap like this. But tell me about that.
Yeah. So I got connected with Journey through my wife because she knows everything.
Facts.
At one point, I think it was when she was running around her campaign, she had met Tyler Titus.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, my wife wants to be a therapist. And at the time I was working for the state, I had my master's degree, I was a counselor. And so we bumped into each other at an art show. And Tyler was like, you want to be a therapist? I'm like, yes. But you need like 3,000 hours of supervision. And so the hours at my job counted, but you have to pay for a supervisor. And it's between $150 and $250 an hour.
Oh, wow.
And you need like 4 or 5, a ridiculous amount. It's thousands of dollars to get your supervision.
Wow.
And so Tyler was like, I'll do it for free. We need more women of color in therapy.
Shout out to Tyler Titus for that, for sure. Running for city council.
But so Tyler at the time was a co-owner of Journey, along with Dr. William Kohler and Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
And so he brought me in, supervised me. I started getting clients, and I used some of my supervision hours from my job because I was still working full time for the state.
Mm-hmm.
And I wound up taking my CRC, so I'm a certified rehab counselor, and that test allows me to register for my license. So Tyler wound up pursuing like politics, and so he kind of moved from Journey. Rachel wound up moving to California because she like was pursuing jujitsu.
Oh wow! Yep.
Cool. Right? And so once I got my license and I no longer needed supervision, I was kind of like really caught between the wedge of, do I do Journey part-time and keep my state job? I got a pension. I got all the old school great things, right? And I remember coming home probably the last 6 months of working at BBVS, angry.
Yeah.
Sad, like just so unhappy. And I remember every day, Divine was like, she gave me one speech. And after that, she was like, I'm not going to tell you again. You know what you need to do. Like, and she's like, leave the job. And I'm like, what about this? What about that? And she's like, I don't give about none of that. She was like, you're not happy.
Yeah. I remember a call. I think that's when we officially was bonding, both depressed and unhappy at jobs. So, but yeah, we bonded over that. And he was like, I'm unhappy at this job. You did.
Think about it.
Yeah.
And then this girl who had been there like 2 years less than me got promoted over me. And I was like, and now it's time to go.
Yeah. Like, all right, I'm gonna head out. Insert SpongeBob meme when he's all right, I'm gonna head out.
And I think a couple months after that, I left. I talked to Will, and I was like, Will, if I come on full time, what can we do? And Will's like, this is what we can do. All right, come on full time. I started full time, and I think it was 2 months in. Before the conversation I had with Will, I remember talking to Divine and saying, I wonder what I have to do to be a partner. Like, I wonder if it's a law firm. I wonder, like, how that works. And I walked into the office one day, and I'm still learning how to do my job. I'm on my laptop, getting ready for my session. Will walks out. He was like, okay, so awkward conversation. And I'm like, all right. Well, I'm thinking he's going to say, you're not a good fit, whatever. He's like, would you ever consider being a partner? And I was like, yeah. Yes, sir. Absolutely. And I told him, I was like, I need some time. I need to figure out what that looks like. I was like, I do need a little bit more time. And I think it boiled down to Will being like, you don't need no more time.
Right. Time is up. Right. Okay. All right. I'm going to give you time. All right.
Time's up. Now you do it. So he really I will say Will like really picked the ball up and was like Tyler and Will, but Will really picked the ball up and saying, I recognize something in you. I recognize something that could be valuable to what we're doing at Journey. And I want you to not only just be a part of it, I want you to help guide this. And so we talked about it. We had talked about it for months before, but then we decided January 1st, we had shared it with the staff and everything. January 1st was the official date. And it was a couple days or a couple weeks after January 1st. We went to the lawyer. Delana came with us. We signed the documents. I got my little certificate of my ownership shares. It happened so quickly that I don't think I've sat back and been like, you spoke owning something into it. And I've never wanted to just
I can't wait because we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into that. Yes.
It's been a good
journey at Journey. It's been a journey through Journey and becoming a co-owner of Journey. And I have Divana. She said, "Oh, Chris, thank you. Chris, thank you for seeing us and supporting us." And then she said, "Shout out to Tyler." So you talk about speaking things into existence, and I definitely want to get into this with you because you have been a big inspiration to me about just really going after what you want, but also truly believing that you deserve what you desire. You have taught me how to really, like, they say like Black girls deserve luxury, and you have definitely been somebody in my life that has really encouraged me to embrace all the good things. And when I say Black girls deserve luxury, I'm not talking about like the name brand purses and all that stuff, but really anything. Something as simple as knowing when you walk into a restaurant, a high-end restaurant here, and them knowing you and them taking care of you, and you ordering a bottle of wine for it, which it sounds maybe, oh, whoop-de-doo to some people, but to somebody who maybe like me, we didn't grow up like with all this money and stuff like that. So I'm still learning to embrace those things. But talk about that and maybe share some wisdom on like embracing like what you speak over your life, because you had said something. We went to dinner the other day, and I know I'm trying to pull all these things. You know how I get, because I'm like, as I'm talking, I'm pulling. But you had said something about like, what do you desire for some? It was something. I might have been dating.
I was telling you to be specific.
Be specific. And so being specific and speaking those things over your life, even though you, like you said, like, I wonder how it would be to be partner, and then it happens. So kind of talk about that in whatever way out of all the things I just said.
I got you.
I'm glad she knows how I am, because anybody else would like, what?
No, I got you. So I think for me, again, Devon, we talk so much. My dad literally was like, "Y'all talk a lot." And I was like, "Yeah, we're each other's best friends."
I love
it. But we were talking about growing up, and I didn't realize we were poor. So technically, my dad wasn't poor. My dad was middle class. Me and my mom was poor. I did not realize that because I didn't necessarily see the effects of that. Devon and I talked a lot about how we didn't feel it at the time, but looking back, we have a lot of money. Right?
Yeah.
And how for her that taught her to budget, and it taught her to coupon and to do sales on things. And for me, it taught me almost the exact opposite, which is I'm going to get whatever I want because I work for it.
Yeah.
And I deserve all of it. A lot of that, though, comes from, especially in my age now, reflecting on the women in my family and what they did not have access to. And I got access to all of that. My mom tells me stories of when she was first, second grade, and her sister would take off of school. This is in Georgia, right? And go pick pecans for extra money.
Oh, wow.
For their family, for my grandmother to feed all of them. And so my mom was the budgeting queen as well. Like she loved a good sale. She still love a good sale.
I said when I get even richer, I'm gonna still be on a balling on a budget, okay, with shopping.
But for me, in my mind, right, like when I look at what my mom went through, my grandmother worked in a laundry room all her life. Her mother and her father were like sharecroppers, and before that, we slaves at that point, right? And so I really do take a view of life of we are in 2023. Everything that was supposed to be sacrificed, my ancestors have sacrificed for me. And so moving forward, whatever I choose to work for, I deserve.
Yeah.
Whatever my wife wants, she deserves. And I know you and I was having this conversation before we sat in here. So, Divine, you listening?
Yes.
New York City.
Yes. You heard here.
You
heard, Divine. Listen, we had to do this on live broadcast to get you to go on this sisters trip. Okay. Angel said it's mandatory for you to go. Okay. She said, oh yes, we talked so much. And she said, I deserve in her Mama D voice. Now sing that while you're saying yes to the sisters trip, Devonna.
But I really view the luxury, or like you said, like the buying wine when I'm sitting at a table, or yes, I am going to buy this $30 cigar.
Yeah.
Like, I view that as my own form of reparation. Because in my DNA, there is so much trauma from people who have gone without.
Yeah.
And I don't have to live that way. And so I'm not going to live. When we talk about trauma, it's past in your DNA, it's past their experiences. And so I have those thoughts too, like, what if I don't have enough money for this? What if I don't have enough money for that? And so I deal with my own anxieties within myself. But I know the greatest gift I can give to my ancestors is to live the best life and the life that I want for myself.
That's good.
So if it's buying myself a $30 or $40 bottle of wine when I'm sitting at a table, I know that my great grandmother is like, yes, baby, drink that wine.
Drink a glass for Granny up here. I love it. Devonna said, I say yes. Okay, sis. I'm going to have to screenshot this and put it on live. I'm going to put Dariah, our sister, be like, she said yes. Hurry up and book the trip before she turns. Right. So, yeah, that's some good. That's good. And like I said, you've been really, even as I'm growing in my business, even as like, being a mom and growing, like you and Devonna during the pandemic, we went glamping, okay, because I don't do no outdoor camping like that. But you've definitely taught me a different way to even just enjoy life. And I want to kind of switch real quick, and I definitely want to get on relationship, because I think you've inspired me with that. But I want to talk about your view of Erie. And the reason why I want to say is because honestly, if it wasn't for you, thank you. Say no. If it wasn't for you on some real stuff, because and people know, like I've said, like I'm out of here. I've planned. I literally have my kids on a waiting list, and I'm like, I don't like it here. I'm done. There's nothing here. And it really wasn't until you, who's not even from here, and maybe that's a good thing because you had a different perspective. But I want to kind of hear your perspective on Erie and maybe give the advice you'd be giving me and other people you've conversed with about like your view on our city.
Yeah. So I think for myself, I would consider myself a fighter. I am not comfortable in a mundane place. I'm not comfortable in a place where everything is perfect, everything is going the way it is. I'm just not, and that is a part of me. And the one thing I really do like about Erie is that there's so much room for growth, right? It's kind of like if I am an artist, I don't want a pot that's already been made, right? I want a piece of clay that still needs to be molded. And for me, I really stayed in Erie, and I really chose to become like a business owner in Erie because I do see the potential of growth. There's so much not here that anything is possible.
Yeah.
I think, and the one thing that I have identified is a lot of the people who are from Erie, who live in Erie, they spend a lot of time with the same people they grew up with. So the people that are your cousins or your aunts, That's your crew up until you 35 years old, 35, 40. And then it's the same, oh, people phony, people this. Well, you're hanging out with the same people for the last 30 years, so you're only talking about one group of people. And I know that because when I got here, I was like, we going everywhere. Like, I asked Ivana, what is there to do in area? She's like, nothing. And I'm like, okay, well, what about this? She was like, oh, yeah, let's go there. Okay, well, what about this? Oh, yeah, let's go there. So I have never been like, I can only hang out with this group of people or in this one space. And I think for me, especially the Black people here, I think that they are confined. I don't know if it is fear. I don't know if it is comfort, right? You're comfortable with your family. You're comfortable in your circle of friends. But I think Erie is literally what you make it. Now, I do say that with the pretext of saying, you don't got to stay here if it's not for you. But what we should not get used to is bashing something that we have to be in, because that's what our mind then tells us. If I'm saying, I hate the house I live in, I hate it. If I say that every day that house is going to get uglier to me. It's going to get smaller to me. It's going to get more confining to me. If I say, I want something bigger than this, and this is my plan, that's completely different. And so when I view Erie, and when people say they hate Erie, and one of our friends, I can't remember who it was, they said the other day, they was like, oh, I hate Erie. I hate Erie. I was like, are you saying you hate Erie? So you hate the land, you hate the water, you hate the wind, you hate the trees? Or are you saying you hate the people in Erie? And who are the people in Erie you've been with? Have you branched out? Have you started new circles? Have you ventured out into the things that are available here? And I'm from a bigger city. Our population is probably doubled in Rochester. I've lived in Philadelphia for a couple summers. I've lived in Edinburgh, a small town. And what I will say is that the reason people come here and they're like, oh, Erie's great, I'm gonna raise my family here, is because it is the best of both worlds, where it's small enough to everything's accessible. It's not enough traffic to bother me. But it is also big enough where there's still space to grow.
And you definitely, everything you've said to me, and it's definitely transform my mind. I mean, now I'm literally growing and building a business here. My kids have been able to experience different things. Like, even though, I'm like, dang, I wish my kids would have had like we had growing up, but there are different things like I didn't grow up going to the neighborhood art house, and that's things that I've kind of been like, okay, I'm going to do different in those ways. And they're experiencing like glamping and things like I never did, going in kayaks and all these things that's like, wow, okay, sis, thank you. I mean, I still want to leave eventually, okay. But I've learned to be happy here while I'm here. And I definitely give you props for being a part of that part of my journey for sure. So, I definitely want to highlight the relationship and your marriage. One, because it has inspired me. Watching my parents been married for 30 plus years, and my parents versus watching my siblings being married, and particularly you and my sister, has been very inspiring, just in the way you guys communicate and like are just in life. So tell me your journey of becoming married to my sister.
Long journey.
I know, good journey.
So I met Divana in college. I think maybe junior year. So my third year, not my fourth year. I think I shot my shot, right? I was at the peak of like, I thought I was cool, had my do-rags and my straight. I thought I was it. And I think my shot was something along the lines of, we're in like the food hall, and I'm like, when you done with your boyfriend, come holler at me. Something weird. She was like, child, bye. Literally, like, and that was it. When I came back from grad school, I was going into like the UC, which was our place where people hung out. She was coming out, and I just remember, and this is gonna sound weird, I felt like there was like a light around her.
Oh,
and the reason I had originally approached her is because I felt that way, but I was also pretty mature, and I was in the prime of my prime. So
It's in the prime of my prime.
exactly. So but I also remember like the way she responded to me. I was like, oh, she liked me. And I think after that we met at like Sugar Ray's. We accidentally bumped into each other, and I was drinking. She was like, "Give me your number to make sure you get home safe." And I started rapping, and that's how it happened.
She said, real quick, she said, long journey. And then she did the little hearts. But I real quick want to go back to Asia because I think she was on the other conversation. She said, I don't mind the people. I love the culture of our people for real. It's mostly the weather and no diversity for me, but very proud and inspired by those who are making a way. Thank you, Asia. And Devonna said, Sugar Rays, too fun. I know. I was like, oh, bring back Sugar Rays because no, don't bring it back. It's okay.
Bring it safer.
Yeah, right. That little corner bar. But go ahead with your journey.
Yeah. So at some point we moved in together. And I remember we were in this apartment and it was mold in the apartment. It was an air mattress. Like when I say we started from the bottom now we and we both were struggling through grad school. She was in grad school at the time. It was a lot. It was a lot. I brought a lot of my own baggage. And I don't know what it was, but it was like we had a conversation or an argument at some point, and I just realized in my head, I was like, you got to get this together. Like, regardless of what she's doing, if you want something out of a partner, then you are going to have to be a better partner. And you can't demand these things from her or be upset at her if you're not leading by example. And so I think what it was I had texted one of my ex and she had gotten my phone. And so I was a very private person with my phone because I was young.
Yeah.
And
that's a good word.
I was young. But after that, I was like, you know what? I'm not playing this game anymore. Here's my passcodes. As a matter of fact, it's your birthday. This is what I'm doing. Whatever you want to do, take the phone, take the iPad, whatever. And I just started working with her as far as being very honest, being forthright. And it started with what I was doing, like even on my phone or in the privacy.
Wow.
It's like integrity, right?
Yeah.
What you do when no one is looking.
Wow. And that's so good.
I had to start having integrity in my relationship if I wanted it to be anything.
First of all, that's some good stuff to say. I am truly blessed that me and Angels pass a line. We have grown through so much, and I'm glad that it's been with you, my love. Now I'm tearing up. I knew it. That's why I waited, because I knew I'm ready for the tears. Because I be crying too. So I love when other people cry. It's good for your soul to cry. But even you just saying that, like, I was expecting all this pretty much from her, and I had to look at myself. And in this day and age, and I can come from a place of dating, the dating world. It's like, what can you do for me? I can point out all your flaws, everything I don't like, everything I don't appreciate, but I'm not going to look at myself. And that takes, like you said, integrity. And I think a lot of times we don't look at like that. So, you said it started with your phone, and for anybody, like, phone is definitely a place where sometimes your phone could be a whole different world from who you are in person. With your conversations, who you're connected to. So, and Ashley Taylor said, make sure you save this so I can come back and watch it later. Life won't let me sit and listen at the moment. Yeah, and now listen, we had 1:32, an hour 32 minutes. Don't worry, Ashley, it will be on replay, and you'll be also able to find it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But yes, so man, like, that's just so good, because we talk about integrity. I'm sorry if I could, in like with other people, but not talking about it in our intimate relationships is like That's just so good. You got any more to say? Because you be dropping gems when it comes to in all honesty, though, I challenged Angel many times because of my insecurities. So let's talk about that. Because like I said, in this generation, um, it is let me pull out your insecurities and make you feel worse about yourself than actually maybe helping to heal some of those, because I do believe, like, no, you're two different people and you shouldn't expect anybody to change you, but in your relationship you kind of want to hope, right, that somebody will help support you through your change. So why don't you talk about that in a little in whatever way? I feel like, I guess I don't know if I even said that right.
No, you're good. I think one of the main facets of Divine and I's relationship is the way that we verbally communicate. Because I am a talker, and like I said, I was a silent kid, so I got a lot to say now as an adult, and I try to be clear on what I say, and I try to explain well. And so, in our relationship, once we got to Erie, after grad school, I think there was a lot of we communicated differently. And when there was a disagreement, her assumption was I was angry versus I'm pointing something out, and vice versa. And so my version of having an argument is let's talk about it. And we might get heated, but I am not a good screamer. I am not a good yeller. My wife can yell.
Yes, she can. It's
that's how I be like, y'all see the nice Divine. Don't be texting her though. Like, but she, it would sometimes become like a screaming match, but I wasn't screaming, right? And so it wasn't about me being like, you need to change. What I had to do was set a boundary that if we are going to be in a relationship, these things can't happen. And it's not that you can't do it. It's I'm not going to accept it. And we won't be in a relationship. And I really do honestly believe that you have to give people the opportunity to rise to the occasion. And the one thing I'll say about my wife, you don't have to tell her too many times anything, and she's going to learn it. And so in setting my boundary, she chose to respect it. She chose to say, I can see why you don't like to be yelled at, because I didn't like to be yelled at. I don't like to be yelled at. And we sat down, and
she said, she's as we're talking with whoever listens to this later, Devonna said, guilty, LOL. She said, Angel's boundaries are stronger than super glue, child. And she said, period.
But she really rose to the occasion, and now she'll be the one like, are you irritated? Let's sit down and have a talk. And I was like, don't be using my stuff on me. But I think a large part of that, though, was not judging her for the way she was communicating with me, because that's not my job. This is my partner. Yeah. And my job is not to prove, well, I have more self-control than you, or I can do this better than you, or you're not. That's not my job. I want you to be just as good as whatever I'm doing, and I want to be just as good in the spaces that you are. And I tell her all the time, like, yeah, the arguing part, I kind of helped with that, right? That was my role, to be like, let's get to this level, right? But when it comes to like socializing with people, getting into the world, my wife is like, the world is open. We can do anything. Like, she brought me out of my shell. So when we talk about how I'm this confident person and I'm able to talk and I'm able to communicate, a lot of it was her. A lot of it was like, let's go do this stuff. Yeah. I'm gonna talk to all these people.
Because Angel did not like doing interviews before. Yeah. Now I'm gonna let y'all do that. Devonna got that. Now look, we got her on the Divinely Crown'd talking. Okay. So I know that was Devonna.
She was the one. She's like, you speak so eloquently. Why don't you like talking? Why don't you like being in spaces? But also understanding my boundaries in those spaces. Like, sometimes we be in a crowd of people, and I will go sit off on the side because I need a moment. And she used to be like, well, why are you sitting on this? Now she's like, you okay, babe? You need anything? Okay, cool.
And you be over there talking. It's pictures of Angel talking with her beer in her hand. Okay. She be out here in these streets chatting and chatting. I love it. So and that's why I said I'm so inspired by you guys, because even though it didn't start, and I've been there, Okay.
Mhm.
I done got phone calls. Okay.
Mhm. Been
And
there.
I've
You've
been
present.
there. But to see the growth that you both have had in your communication, how you talk to each other is very inspiring, and definitely, like, there's tools that you guys have, I've watched you guys, that I would love to take into my relationship when I get one, in Jesus name, with a
And you
good old
shall.
man. Okay. So, and I love that. And I want to ask real quick, you came from a divorced parent like household,
Mhm.
and you saw a serious divorce. It was kind of, you would say, toxic.
Mhm.
How did that kind of, like, transform this like going into marriage? Did you always want to get married still? Is it something that you were scared of? Because I do know there's a lot of people that are like, no, I saw my parents, the divorce was nasty, blah blah blah, I'm never getting married. And for you to have kind of that experience and be here now with your marriage, like, how was that journey?
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I ever thought about getting married
Mm,
necessarily until I got a little bit older. And I was always gung ho for being married
mm-hmm,
because I always viewed it as like this your best friend you get to live with until you die, right?
mm,
And looking at my parents' marriage, initially when Devon and I got married, we talked a lot about once we get married, we ain't getting divorced, right? That's what everybody says. I'm like,
yeah,
I came from a divorced family. She's like, my parents been married for 30 years, we ain't getting
mm,
divorced. And we got a little further in our marriage, and we're like, that's not healthy
mm,
because I watched my parents be married for 20 years
mm-hmm,
and they weren't happy.
mm-hmm,
So longevity is not happiness and it's
mm-hmm,
not love.
mm,
And so, one of the things we talk about is our marriage is a choice every day,
mm-hmm.
every single day. When I'm mad at you and I can't stand to look at your face, I still know I want to be married to you.
Mhm.
I still know that I don't want to be married to anybody else.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think coming from a divorced family at the age I am now, sitting here, and it has been progress and there's been change since I was younger, but sitting here now, the only thing that I hope from my partner is that they're happy. And
Mhm.
whether that happiness is with me or without me,
Mhm.
and I've told Devana this before, I want you to be strong enough to do it with me or to do it without me. Because
Mhm.
even if it's not a separation, if I drop dead tomorrow, I want you to go out and be as amazing and extraordinary as you are. And
Mhm.
so for me, marriage is about a never ending partnership and an exchange of like unlimited energy.
That's good.
And that's,
That's good. I love it. And I've hear these things. I'm fortunate to hear these things off the record. So I want you to give some advice on, and I'm gonna say, because I'm one of them, I want you to give some advice for the single people out there. I know you hear about my journey of singleness and dating, and you're fortunate to have an amazing partnership, I should say, an amazing partner, but I'm saying partnership. So I'm going to ask you to give some advice. What advice would you give to one first married people and then also single people? Because I think you have some good advice.
to married people, exactly what we do in our marriage. Choose each other every day. And if you
Mm-hmm.
wake up and you can't choose each other, sit down and have that conversation.
Mm,
Be honest about it. Don't make it about the other person. Make it about you.
mm-hmm.
And if you are in a healthy, loving marriage, continue to pour into your partner. And we don't always show up in our best selves all the time. I don't
Mm-hmm.
show up as my best self every single day. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired and I'm worn out. But when I do have the energy, when I do have the capacity, I try to show up for my wife in every way that I can think of.
Mm-hmm.
But then I also ask her, how do you need me to show up for you?
Yeah.
And ask your partner, communicate with them. And there are spaces where I still fall short, and I know that. And I think that is something that I have to work on my own healing and my own process. But I think having a partner that can acknowledge you falling short here, but you are doing every single thing right in every other space, and I love you for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would say to married people.
That's good.
Stop nitpicking to quit,
Mm.
right?
Dang. Okay. I ain't married yet, but I felt that. Devonna said she sure does.
And two single people. Two single people.
Yes.
I love y'all. And when I say be specific, I do mean be specific.
Oh.
Be specific in how you want to be treated and how you want to be loved. Yes. Be open to what love looks like, though. Because sometimes what we envision love to look like is not that. Sometimes what we want love to be is not the love that fills us up. So be open, be aware, and be firm in your boundaries too. Because just because a person aesthetically fits the love that you think that you want does not mean they emotionally, psychologically, or in any other way fit you.
Ooh,
so stop accepting the aesthetic and be open to what love might look like in different ways.
Dang. Yeah. I mean, I know I've heard this kind of in other ways from you, but that's good advice. And I hope that that helps both married people, future married people, and also people in their single season. So we've been on here for an hour and 44 minutes. That's how you know it's a good conversation. Okay. But before I let you go, I have obviously two questions, two divinely crowned questions I ask. And the first one is, Divinely Crowned is all about confidence and self love. So, in Angel's words and what Angel feels, what does confidence look like to you?
Confidence looks like being afraid and doing it anyway.
I love that. That's good. That's true. I can agree with that. I can agree with that. And the other thing I like to ask is, on this journey that you've been on from little angel to now this powerful, even though you've been powerful your whole life, but this powerful walking in her power and her truth, what would you tell little angel, little 5-year-old? Let's talk to little 5-year-old angel. What would you say to her?
Everybody's right. You are powerful beyond what you will ever be able to imagine. Everybody right about you.
Everybody right about you. I love it. I love it. So, is there anything? I always like to leave the throne. I told you one day I'm gonna have throne chairs saying this. Okay. I always like to leave the throne for anything you would like to say, anything you wish I would have touched on that I didn't. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I am just appreciative of being on this show. I had to ask her, y'all, to be on her show, but she said yes. So I had some belief.
It was gonna come, but it was like, okay, listen, it was coming.
But truly, I'm very, very grateful to be on the show. I'm also very proud of you because I know from when we first met to now, there's been so much growth for both of us.
Yeah.
For you, for between you, Devonna, everybody. And so I'm truly, truly proud of you. And
Thank
I know
you.
sometimes the journey can be frustrating.
Yeah.
But you're going to get everything that you want.
Okay, you ain't gotta try to make me cry.
You're gonna get everything you want. Just stay true to yourself.
Thank you. Okay. All right. I was just trying to see if you want to highlight yourself. Devonna said this was such a fruitful conversation. Davina, you are truly kicking booty with Divinely Crowned Conversations. I am so proud of you, boo. Thank you, sister. Thank you. And real quick, do you want to share like where they can find you? I know I put it in or where they can connect or like, get any of the things, because I don't want them to necessarily find you, because Angel be a private person sometimes. So, but anyway, wait, hold on. She also said, "Good luck, my love. I love listening to you spiel and speak." I thought she meant to say your spiel, and then I realized, okay, thank you, Tafana. But yeah, where can they find you or connect with where you're involved?
Yeah, so ariesblackwallstreet.org, I think it is our organization. If you go to About Our Team, I'm right on there. Journey to a Trauma-Informed Life, I'm on there as well. And you can email me, I guess. Angelica45spraggins at gmail.com. That is my personal email, so feel free to email. Don't bombard me.
Yes.
That's what you can get.
I love it. Well, I always love to give my flowers, and I just want to tell you thank you for asking me to be on here, because I was gonna ask you, but no, seriously, thank you. And I was so happy for this. And I just love you. Thank you for being such an inspiration to me, an encourager and a supporter. And just thank you for loving my sister the way you do. Don't make me cry again. Get
I ain't
emotional.
got no choice. It's too
Right.
many of y'all. I
Okay.
ain't trying to get messed up. Like,
Listen, just love us,
yeah,
sis. We
I
love
do. I
you.
love you.
But yes, thank you just for all you do. Thank you for the light you are for Erie, even when it's not easy. Thank you for just continuing to be an encourager and just being who you are truly. Okay. Well, everyone, that was a great conversation, and I hope that you guys were inspired. Thank you to those that were in the comments. Thank you to the viewers, and even thank you to those who will listen to this in the future. I will put all the of Angel's credentials and links in the show notes when I upload the audio, and just thank you for continuing to support Divinely Crowned. We are growing and glowing, and I'm just loving this journey and just highlighting queens like Angel and just everything great they are doing and learning as they are on their journey. So I am going to wrap this up, but until next time, remember, you are divinely crowned.